Hey there, Randy Cross again with you for Unsafe Spaces USA. Again, any suggestions on the show, any stories you'd like us to share, send those to producer at unsafespacesUSA.com. It's been an interesting week this past week. I can tell you one of the highlights for me is something that's happening now. My daughter Kelly and her husband Dirk are getting ready to welcome their second daughter into the world sometime between now and Friday. The joys and high information level of the world these days. You can kind of pick your time. Well, if the little baby, named to be determined later, I'm voting Lillian, comes, I'm going to have to be on alert. Patrice and I got to be ready to go. But let's jump into this and start with the week that was. Well, the highlight for me on the week that was, did shows last week. Gonna go do another show tonight or tomorrow night for Inside College Football on CBS Sports Network. But I started games. My first game was played last Saturday night. It was in San Jose. It was USF, University of South Florida, at San Jose State. Was a lot of fun. San Jose State got off to a 16-0 lead. Ended up losing 42-22. But it was a great effort, I think, overall by the end of it for Charlie Strong and company. And for Brent Brennan, the new head coach at San Jose State, a lot of stuff to learn from. And a lot of really positive things for a program that's been down and has struggled. And as I did on the air, I just got to wish him the world of luck. I've known Brent since he was just a little guy. His parents are my oldest daughter, Kelly, who is about to have the baby. They were her godparents, or they are her godparents. Steve passed away a few years ago, but I saw Beth on Saturday night. I saw Brad. A bunch of the family and friends were there. So it was a great event. And not the way they wanted to kick things off, I think, at San Jose State or South Florida, for that matter, as dull as they were early. But overall, it was a long but entertaining football game. Other games on last Saturday night, you look at... Stanford was all the way across the world. That was another effort there. But before our game on CBS Sports Network was Oregon State went to Colorado State. Colorado State christened their new stadium on campus. Looks like a beautiful facility for Mike Bobo and the Rams to play in. And they christened it the right way. You know, Oregon State and Coach Anderson have had a pretty good program over these years, starting with Mike Riley was there, but consistently played well. Well, Saturday wouldn't be one of the ones they'd say you consistently played well. They got smoked. Colorado State kicked things off in a very positive and resounding manner and sort of sent a general alarm, I think, out to a lot of people in the Mountain West that they're going to be serious this year. And if you're a college football fan, keep an eye on Colorado State. And to me, the other game, there were a few more, but between FBS and FCS, there were a few levels. But anyway, the game of note was Stanford and Rice. Normally, Stanford-Rice wouldn't be that exciting, but they did play this one in Sydney, Australia. Played it on a rugby-style pitch. And I tell you, it was almost a rugby-style score the way Stanford ran through them. I think they had a running back, Love, go 66 yards on the first play of the game. Ran for, 200 and something yards. He did. And Stanford is, in general, looks like they're going to have another year where they're big, they're physical, they run the ball, and they play pretty decent defense. And Rice was on the receiving end of that. Now, that's kind of college football last week. This week coming up is going to be pretty special, including the Florida State-Alabama game. And then next Monday night, there'll be the Georgia Tech and Tennessee game. Next up on the week that was, had one news item, I think, that caught a lot of people off guard. They were kind of warned about it, but I'm talking about the pardoning of former Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Now, Joe was in the news a lot, not only around the election, the way he was handling illegal immigration, the way he handled prisoners in general. I mean, he was on the edge. And parts of that, he was not necessarily on the edge. He was in the gray area. But he's an older gentleman, and he was being pursued by a lot of people. Let's just say politically not of his ilk, not of the president's ilk. And the president pardoned him. And that just made people go nuts. See that head exploding? That was liberal weenies all over the world when he pardoned Joe Arpaio. Next one up is Hollywood. I mention this once in a while, but I kind of am taking an evil, gleeful look at this on a regular basis. Box office, not so good. Almost at a standstill. Almost historic levels they haven't seen since 9/11. The movies are coming out, and anything that's making money is something that came out a while ago. And I don't care which one you're talking about here, whether you're talking about the Wonder Woman movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. People are seeing those. It's the new ones. It's the unoriginal ideas, which are most of what's coming out of Hollywood. And right now, Hollywood they're sucking the old tailpipe. Let's put it that way. They're taking in some bad fumes when it comes to the box office, and I can't say I'm that disappointed for them, to be honest with you. Next up is something close to my heart. I was born in New York, lived in Brooklyn, and we moved to LA because my dad was an actor about the same time as the Brooklyn Dodgers became the LA Dodgers. And now LA's had a rich tradition of winning through their time in Los Angeles, and they've won World Series. They've had great teams. People are starting to talk about this team this year as maybe being the best one they've ever had. And winning-wise, they're on a historic pace. They lost the other day to the Brewers, but this is a team that's already won 90 games, probably 91, I should say. And they've got a chance to do something nobody else has done. But by the standards they live at with a franchise like the Dodgers, nothing less than a World Series will do. And if you're a Dodger fan like me, the good news is Clayton Kershaw had a great rehab start, and he's getting ready to come back. One thing the Dodgers are doing plenty of this year is the same thing everybody else is doing. They're hitting home runs, and they're hitting them at a pretty epic pace. Fun to see, and as a Dodger fan, it's fantastic to see them play well, especially in light of all the great years lately that have been put out there by the San Francisco Giants. They're sort of mortal sworn enemy and former residents of New York City. Okay, let's go to the biggest probably event of this week past, and it will be of this next week future. It's Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey has been horrendous. Now, let's put this into perspective. Let's remember, go back before Harvey hit, and I mean like half a day, so 12 hours or so. This was going to be a Category 1 coming off a tropical storm. Now, within that 12 hours, it suddenly became a Category 4, and it is stalled over Texas. It's still close enough to the Gulf to still be sucking off the moisture on the Gulf, so the rain is coming. It's a terrible situation, and as usually happens with natural disasters, idiots do idiot things. And idiots now are currently saying, why didn't you evacuate Houston immediately? Well, NARS, which stands for NARS, which is not a rocket scientist, Houston wasn't in the bullseye. That was Corpus Christi, and Corpus Christi got slammed. Houston, when they eventually got the models of it moving, once it hit land, that's when they decided that Houston was going to get an awful lot of rain. Now we're talking up to 50 inches. Okay? So no one saw this coming. And if you live in the Gulf Coast or anywhere in the Atlantic area, you know hurricanes come, and sometimes they move and peter out and don't do what they're supposed to do. Well, this one is doing everything it's supposed to do, and we're going to get spin-offs of it in the Atlanta area, New Orleans, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. They're all going to get remnants of this eventually. when this storm does decide to turn.
Telling residents who ignored evacuation orders to write their name and social security numbers on their arms so authorities can identify their bodies. This storm is expected to stay over the Texas coast for days, dumping more than 2 feet of rain before moving to Louisiana.
Next up in the week that was is you could not get away from this story. This story was everywhere. And I'm talking about McGregor and Mayweather. Mayweather and McGregor. The biggest boondoggle in sports since, God, I don't know what. But there were hundreds of millions of dollars made. Well, actually, $100 million supposedly made by Conor McGregor.
Oh, I never felt like this before. Yes, I swear it's a truth, and I owe it all to you.
A lot of hugging. There were some bro moments.
We do have footage now. Walk us through
She does
the
have
highlights
footage.
of this fight.
Well, we see here the beautiful UFC belts, and we see here the smile of Floyd Money Mayweather as they're getting ready to go. Early left hands, a beautiful counter left uppercut. That left uppercut never landed again after that one. Mayweather made the adjustments. This jab was working very well up into the 4th round, and then we start seeing Mayweather right after the 4th start taking over. He keeps Conor on his heels, keeps the pressure, starts using the counters, and is able to start hitting.
Who could have
Conor
ever
over
guessed that a
big
guy
right
that was
hands.
used to fighting
continues,
3 rounds
Connor's backing up
would
the whole
struggle
time
having
on
to
the
go
ropes
10.
more and more, not landing as
And
many
Mayweather
shots.
actually hit him.
Floyd Mayweather's
I
landing
refuse to
heavier
call
shots round
what
for
Mayweather
round.
did as a
We're seeing
knockout
Mayweather
because
just keep
the
pressure
ref did a
nonstop,
terrible
doesn't
job
let off the gas.
of
He's
fighting,
able to
of stopping
just
this fight.
overwhelm Conor McGregor
It was
with
horrendous.
nonstop combinations, nonstop
And
punches,
if
and
you
then
spent
clinching
money
it,
on
going
this,
back to the punches. Come the 10th round,
God, I
Conor
hope you
McGregor
enjoyed
has
it,
had enough.
because
The ref gets in there
there's
a
no
little bit
physical
early,
way
he's
or
trying
no
to keep the
possible
fighter
way
safe, doing his job.
you got your
And
money
Mayweather
out of this
becomes the greatest
nightmare.
of all time, 50-0.
The greatest of all time, 50-0. Yeah, my butt. That was a disgrace. And by the way, that last scene you saw was 50 Cent's Twitter post about it, which was actually kind of funny, with the picture of Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet on the Titanic and blah, 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 and the hug from the fight. Final part here of the week that was is something that happened last night, and that was the Game of Thrones finale. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm not going to ruin too much of the finale, but a lot of things happened that I thought were going to happen. Here's one of them.
It's a long way down.
Yeah. Crows keep telling me I'll get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fire-breathing dead dragon. And a blue fire-breathing dead dragon. And he's being ridden by the King of the Dead. Yeah, that's him. And I'm sorry, but that would qualify as a bit of a spoiler. But there was plenty of other action. I got good news, I got bad news. The good news was that was almost 80 minutes long, that episode last night. So you can rewatch it if you DVR'd it or you go to HBO Go or whatnot. Bad news, might be a year, might be 2 years before they decide to re-ramp that franchise back up for the 8th and final season. Believe that when you see it. Hope every one of those episodes, though, if they do another 7-episode season, hope every one of those episodes is like 90 minutes long. And they could do that with this franchise. All right. A quick word from me, monologue-wise. I just wanted to talk about something that happened over the weekend, and a lot of you probably didn't even see this. And if you saw it, it was a glancing view. And that is, football in general got a new palace. Football got a new kind of Taj Mahal. Football in general got a new home for big games, for big moments, and for just big in general. And that's the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, was sort of opened for its first event. It was a preseason game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Arizona Cardinals. That building is incredible. Let's take a look at a few pictures and some video from that night. No, that's not the Georgia Dome. That's this place. See that little building on the side of it there? That was the Georgia Dome, which looks like a Quonset hut next to this one. Spectacular roof, which eventually this year will be used. The college football national championship game, the playoff national championship game. Next January will be played in that building. So in January of 2008, there'll be a national championship played there. In February of 2009, the Super Bowl will be in that building. And if you've got a stadium you got to see in the country, it used to be Jerry's World. It used to be the Palace in Dallas. Well, not anymore. It's now the MercedesBenz Stadium in Atlanta is the place, the modern marvel, the current, and this is adjustable, eighth wonder of the world. All right, let's go to what, from our input, is the highlight of Unsafe Spaces, and that is Butthurt. Ho, good morning. Yeah. Once again, the Matador gets it in the end. But Butthurt of the Week is going to be kicked off here by something that, this is a hint, or at least a tip. If you're these anti-FA type protesters, even if you're on the hate side with anti-FA and you're on the opposite sort of thought process in that you're in there with the white nationalists and the Nazis and everybody else, don't let your mom know you're going to protest. Because if you grew up like I grew up, this is how it's going to end. Uh-huh. Get your non-working butt, get that mask off and get your butt home. Exactly. I love that. I'm sorry, you may not like that, but I loved it. And this is my show. So that's why it's in there. And I can also tell you that Andy and Ray in the back, they loved it too. Next up on Butthurt. I don't know how really to describe this story other than I just got to show it to you, because this one to me, I got Andy, the producer of this, sent me this story, and I did a double take. I did a triple take. I read it and I said, say what? In our country? Well, kind of. It is in the People's Republic of California. But, check this out. And the information behind this story is something that...
well, this world continues to get stranger.
Yeah, it does.
According to Zero Hedge, a new bill penned by Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco, dubbed the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Long-Term Care Facility Residents Bill of Rights, or SB 219, takes wacky California legislation to a whole new level. Among other things, the bill makes it illegal for employees of any long-term care facility to willfully and repeatedly fail to use a resident's preferred name or pronouns after being clearly informed of the preferred name or pronouns. So you may ask, what is a punishment for not abiding by this new law? Well, it includes a 1-year prison sentence and a $1,000 fine.
Long-term care is obviously nothing to joke about. It's usually an end of life scenario, and people that are going through that deserve every right in the world. But isn't this taking it a little bit crazy? Really? A year in jail? A law? Don't you have other better things to legislate about? But anyway, you do you, and I'll do me, and I couldn't make much sense of that story. Let's make a move right now to the next segment of this show, which is Real World News. And this week, Real World News is kind of a, well, let's say it's this current coming week in history, and some of the things that happened during this week in the history of the world. And they're pretty notable things that come up on this list. First one up, and you'll know this and remember this from the headline, and if you didn't remember from the headline, you remember it from your history classes. This happened in 1963, one of the greatest speeches in American history, given by Dr. Martin Luther King.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
Yep, that was 54 years ago, today, the 28th. How amazing is that? Next up on the list of things that happened starting today and during this course of this week, another historical fact, another historical event. Check this out. Oldest city in the USA, 1565, St. Augustine, Florida. Anybody that's ever been down in that general area, you see some amazing stuff. Now, I got to tell you, that wasn't built in 1565. But this is, it's fun. It's not too far away from Jacksonville. And if you ever get a chance to get down in that area, check it out. Okay? Next story. Let's keep this moving right along. Next story, what happened this week in history? I remember Diana, Princess of Wales, died in a car crash. I was doing a preseason game in New England the day that happened. And news cut in, several cut-ins during the course of the day when this event happened. Just an amazing person for her humanitarian things that she did. And it affected a lot of people around the world. Another one of those events that people say, you know, they kind of remember where were you when. And when Diana died, people remember where they were, and they remember that amazing, you just saw a short little clip there, but that funeral was something that was very, very memorable. Next up of historical things that happened during this week, yep, sort of the unofficial start of World War II. Germany invaded Poland and started World War II. The Blitzkrieg, a term that people would become very familiar with over the ensuing years, the way that the Germans attacked and fought and invaded parts of Europe. But that all got kicked off this week in history. Next up, another one that has its roots back in World War II, and in fact, it's probably in the other bookend when it comes to World War II. Is Japan. VJ Day was September 1st, which is this coming Friday, was when Japan surrendered to the U.S., and it was on the decks of the Missouri, the Mighty Mo, the USS Missouri, that happened. And that's the actual scene right there. Yeah, my dad fought in the Pacific during World War II, so I'm familiar. And if you're too young to remember some of these things that we've been showing you, study history. Actually, study history on your own. Study American history, because that's probably the most abused subject out there. We just don't learn enough about our own history. And also this week in history, one of the, I think, best made movies ever. No computer graphics involved. Just great camera work, great editing, amazing actors. Alfred Hitchcock making Rear Window. Man, it's suspenseful. It had it all. And if you haven't seen it, September 1st, 1954, and that's Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly, and that's the director right there, Alfred Hitchcock. One of the great movies ever, I think. I really, really enjoy that movie. And in the final this week in history, something, or real world news, I should say, something that came up this week past that I came across. I got to share this. This is half joking, but you know what? This was a headline in an article I came across that said, you know, all those pictures on our money, they're all slave owners, so send them in. Will you? Huh? You got to dispose of money properly. And why not just send it to somebody that, hey, use it. So if you got it in your pocket and you come across people that you know could use money, it might make you feel a lot better. Just get rid of that nasty money. Heck, if you have to, send it to us here at Unsafe Spaces. All right, let's have a little fun. And let's move on to, well, I think this picture coming up says it all. Let's go to the tinfoil hat section. Ah, yes. You do remember back when car phones, there was actually a big handle you had that looked like a phone from the house, and you had the box was inside the armrest, and gigantic phones, or you had the arm strap and you carried it around with you, or when they got to one piece, they were about that long, about that thick, and had this long antenna, and you carried them around. They looked like World War II walkie-talkies. Well, cell phones have come a long way, but according to this, maybe they've been around longer than we think. Check this out.
A painting from the 1930s is raising eyebrows because it seems to show a Native American gazing at a cell phone. The piece, entitled M.R. Pynchon and the Settling of Springfield, depicts a meeting between English settlers and Native Americans in Massachusetts during the 17th century.
How great is that? Boy, I tell you what, if you're combing through stuff and you come across that, I don't know if that's a cell phone, but given the poses most people hold in public, in airports, on planes, in buses, on sidewalks, this is very familiar. So that's fun, isn't it? It's good to see something like that. Hey, next up is we're going to have a whole compilation, which is a nice way of saying we're going to show you a bunch of little short videos. I'll talk during most of this, but it's of spaceships. Because remember, they are out there. And you know what? Judging from the size of this compilation, there's a bunch of those things out there.
What you're looking at is a massive event captured by Kitut Puja, along with French tourist, November 25th, 2015.
What is that?
We got more footage coming in via our Facebook. We're going to be going over a few different anomalies just submitted. Watch the raw video right now. Here we go again. A beam of light.
A beam of light.
Now what we're looking at, some people might say that this is some kind of camera anomaly.
Or a space in the curtain, maybe.
Up here, chilling. I come outside.
There we go.
See this thing. My phone,
how about that?
For some reason, won't get that close of a look on it.
That's because your phone won't go any closer than
this
that.
This reminds me of
Watch
Tesla big time. Look at it. It's a Tesla ball.
It's a Tesla ball. Either that or it's a dark, like, balloon that somebody floated up there and lightning hit it. Nah, that's not as much fun. That's a spaceship, damn it. I knew it. The other thing we all know about, and if you don't, where you been lately, is that, alien life has been on Mars for a long time. We just haven't found enough real hardcore evidence to prove it. Well, we're getting close again. We got some ancient ruins, an alien city on Mars. Now, there's an old picture, and here's one you see. the side-by-sides. That's in Iran on the left. The one on the right is on Mars. That's eerily not similar. I'm sorry, did I say eerily not similar? Yes. I don't think that's close. I need more evidence. That one's bothering me. I don't like that one. Now, there's an old picture of a face on Mars. But check this out. See that? I've seen that before, but it didn't have the rim around it. That is cheesy. That's not even good editing. That's not even good photoshopping. Alien City on Mars. In the official images of a road that looks eerily like US 10 going from LA to Las Vegas, but I digress. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Where's the payoff? There's the payoff. And yes, that is the Hera's Mars. And you got a 3-night special. That's 4 days, 3 nights for $99.95 at the Hera's Mars. Anytime you're willing to come. All right. Hey, let's go off to the feel-good story. And this story is fun. It's almost as much fun as My Guy the Hamster. Because eventually, My Guy the Hamster here is not only going to look, he's going to look away, and then he's going to come back. Come on, come back. Come back. Dang, he didn't do it again. Well, there was a fantastic video that I came across. Is it a human interest, feel-good story? No, this isn't any of that. You just got to just watch this and enjoy. And if you don't enjoy this, you have no soul. Here it comes. Does he catch it? Heck, are you going to catch it? Oops. Bang! I had to have a little bit of fun. Sometimes these weeks get a little bit serious. Subjects get serious. But as the clothes store for larger gentlemen like myself, Rochester is big and tall, had a slogan back in the 80s, life's too short to be small. I want to remind you, social media-wise, places to find us, places to refer people to, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter page, unsafespacesusa.com. That's unsafespacesusa.com. And if you have suggestions, you've got your own stories, you've got your own clips you want us to show, send that to producer at unsafespacesusa.com. So I hope you all have a great week. I want to remind you something I mentioned earlier in the show. Kelly and Dirk, my daughter and son-in-law, are going to be a family of 4 by the time this podcast is on again. And Charlie's going to have a little sister. All right? Have a great week. And from all of us here, we say happy trails.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails.